Good day, friends. Just wanted to tap in. It's been a little bit. Appreciate everyone. Hope your lives are fascinating. That you're gaining more interest in the details of your blueprint as a means to free yourself. Where Toltecs say we are dark and mysterious creatures, and that we've yet to really tap into the infinite potential that every individual has. The reason my channel is called Perceiver is that it's a very much a acknowledgement of what we are, and that we are capable of not only perceiving what is being presented to us in what we were shown, from our parents. They taught us how to see the world. They helped us to normalize. They took this bundle of light and taught it how to behave so that we would pick up on the same things that they pick up on, and our world came into physical form through that process. And their parents did the same to them, and there are other ways that one could raise a child and introduce them to the many layers of perception that are available, but that's not an easy thing to do, even as a very advanced, aware seer of energy, because you do want your child to go through the necessary rite of passage of being able to be fully normalized here, not out of without the ability to see the world before them. I do know kids that cannot see the world that we see, and not easy. They end up in mental wards typically, or somebody basically has to babysit them almost all the time. It's a real thing. It's really uncomfortable to come to terms with that can happen. And so no need to expedite the process of being able to see these other layers. If you're not able to, it's for a reason. Um, you know, Light illuminates the physical, and so you can learn to unbind from the physical hard world by learning to see in the dark, or look in the dark, or spend time in the dark, to get to know your own your darkness, your power, your feminine, your depths, your void, your inner abyss. Right? Dreaming is the solution eventually for our awareness and consciousness to continue, because it is through our ability to travel through dreams in order to free ourselves from the thick, heavy self-importance that comes with what usually happens if you remain only in this particular layer of the onion. But this is an amazing layer to learn to be in and have fun with and enjoy and celebrate your existence in. But we need a reference, an experience that helps us, that unveils to us that there's a real energetic component, and that primarily we are energy, and secondarily we've created a physical manifestation of a world, but in reality that physicality is still an illusion, as is any other layer of the dream. These are all hallucinations, but they're ones in which we can walk in. And eventually one could learn to discover a canvas in which they create their own world. But to really do that is very advanced. I've met many people claiming to do that, but they're still just inside of their imaginations talking about things they don't understand. And Castaneda material really exposes what's real and what isn't, in a sense, because it's just such a ruthless explanation, so confronting on so many levels. And for those that practice this stuff, come to terms with how real that text is, that body of knowledge, and what it's pointing at. But when you get comfortable in the dark, you feel incredible, because a power grows inside of you. Your light gets brighter. You become the light in the dark. Sorcerer's eyes get really beautiful, piercing, The medicine woman that we worked with for a very, very long time, um, was going through such a unique transformation that just to be in her presence, to look into her eyes was significant and enough. I mean, it's not like she needed to talk or do anything. We were just being in the presence of someone that's that lit up. Um, it doesn't necessarily last. She didn't continue. She was a wounded healer. She was willing to sacrifice herself for others, and she was at odds with the Earth Mother for not uh, honoring her requests. And this often happens with spiritual people, is that they become bitter and jaded because on some level they were doing the work to get something for themselves, but they were maybe lying to themselves about that part, and it causes confusion. So this is not easy stuff to look at, to see the way in which the program works within every person, including myself. um, so the darkness will provide a great peacefulness, a harmony that is different than being bathed in the sun or inside of the intensity of being lent that masculine energy. So the darkness is like the womb. Sweat lodge and things of this nature serve as a place to go back to the womb, but you can just do it with a blindfold. You just give yourself a break, from the world by just covering your eyes, closing and covering your eyes, and just turning it off for a minute now and again, maybe longer periods of time. And the more you get comfortable inside of it, um, the more you can regulate your nervous system. But it's some people that they're terrified of the dark, and it's good to admit that and not pretend you're not, because that just means you're capable of seeing and feeling things that others aren't. So you depending on how open and aware you are, it's not just a walk in the park to be able to be inside of the darkness. But when you get comfortable in to be in the wilderness, in places that are really magical, and you're comfortable in the darkness, the combination is extraordinary. But I don't mean like out with the dog or out with the kids, or I'm talking alone, uh, not hiding in a tent, but just staying up all night and being out there. But not something to force. And Carlos, for a period of time, was not allowed to go anywhere alone into the wilderness because he had opened himself up too much, and was very vulnerable and susceptible. So this is an advice for those that are already opened up. This is a means to become more aware of what moreness there is to tap into. Um, and our ability to free ourselves from all the things like the snowboard and the skis and the surfboard and the ice bath and the sauna, and those are all amazing outlets to have that can help you heal. But at some point, we don't want to be dependent on any of the things. Uh, they're not needed ultimately. That you can go into any situation where you're in jail, or in a crowded plane or something where you're uncomfortable. You can learn to tap into your silence and free yourself in that moment from whatever limiting perception you were in, without having to do something, to uh, to redirect your attention. But but I want you to enjoy your life. Go and do and celebrate your existence by getting a snowboard and a surfboard and drinking your favorite coffees or going to your favorite restaurants. And I'm not suggesting we not do these things. I recommend that we discover our excitement and our ecstatic experiences as a means to heal. In that respect, when you have something that truly excites you, the world will honor that, recognize that, and if you move toward that in an impeccable way, then it will become a source of everything for you. Like we just don't know ourselves enough to really admit to what we truly want. We struggle to fully step into our desire and ask, to or not ask necessarily, but open up to what spirit has, and as a means to engage us in our purpose. And it will come through excitement. There'll be something that makes you feel incredible. And if you can understand how you can gain access to that, um, and that may be teaching, all these magical things like snowboarding, and assist people in repairing their being with all these cool gadgets and systems. But you can't take any of those things with you. The material world is an illusion, and the only thing you can take with you is your experiences. And even that we might not get to keep. Shamans say that the whole point of the recapitulation, um, is that you are able to keep your awareness intact and move into the afterlife, having not been purged of your memory. They also say that when you recapitulate your memories, they start to feel like someone else's memories, as if you're observing a character in a movie, as if you have access to their storyline, because you become a multifaceted creature. You gain access not only to your memories, but to your ancestors, or to your teachers, or maybe to the ability to remote view and go back in time and see what occurred in certain events. Very few people have the capacity to do what like Juan Matus and Don Hanaro and Carlos Castaneda and all these people in the books discovered. But they had an advantage that we don't have. They were forced to change. They were tricked into their apprenticeships. They were not given a choice. We're in a different time, and it needs to operate differently. And so we're approaching this knowledge from a totally different ways and means. So I don't recommend this to everyone, but I don't avoid. Well, I'm open to different solutions on how one becomes capable of handling intense perception, right? So, um, tequila, mushrooms, and cannabis in high levels all at once, and learning to handle that, and being out in the world, and freeing yourself from the limitations of the common experience. If you can find people who are hilarious and on point and in tune, and they don't even have to be like on the same path as you. It's a lot of me. I go to music and I hang out with people who are amazing. Um, People that can handle their medicine, people that can are practiced. They're like trip guides, people that can handle and are open to feeling incredible levels of joy and ecstasy, and don't kind of have to blow their lid in the process. They know how to rein it in and follow a guidance system in that. Some of these people are, they're more capable than a lot of the charlatan shamans, pretending that you have to be sober in order to handle anything. And there's a time and a place to be without substance, for sure, and without sex and without certain things. A shaman will be initiated through celibacy and sobriety as a means to ensure that they can reach these same states without the substance. So knowing when, what and when and how and who, and learning to enjoy your life immensely regardless of any spiritual projections that might be put out there, or any fears that your partner might have. And by all means, I do not mean to suggest that I'm without any issues around substances. It's not something I'm claiming to have the upper hand on. I just don't believe that people should refer to themselves as addicts and have to and go to meetings and maintain that concept. The trauma that led to the addiction is where the work is at. And um, by limiting our perception of what's possible, we create a lot of fear and hand our power over to uh, alcohol and say it's bad and whatnot. It is a poison, as are mushrooms and cannabis and most foods, um, in a sense. But pick your poison and run with it and have fun and enjoy your life, and you know uh, make the most of every moment if possible. In the books, one of Carlos's friends is aware that he's going to die, and he asked Carlos to come on a road trip with him. And in order for that man to be able to truly take in his last road trip, he used alcohol as a means to experience and feel his emotions. And Carlos was in very much in judgment of that. Don Juan just helped to point out, that it's not the case. That man was going to die. He chose to embrace his last days in the way that he chooses. That's personal. That's not for us to project or judge anyone. Ultimately, our power will build really strongly when we're no longer poisoning ourselves with anything. And that's why being able to be emotionally healthy leads to wanting to live in a most vital way. And when you're no longer comfortable with any poison, then that's when a massive, incredible healing can happen. But then I've seen people get repressed and caught in this idea that they have to remain there because they identify with how they got to where they are with that process. So everything's a trap, it seems like there's no way to sort of think our way through this. And if we could learn to feel our way through this and honor our shadow, because these different parts of us need different types of experiences in order to become integrated and liberated. So our darkness, our desire, our passion, it can be harnessed and used to work through your shadow work, to become a shadow worker rather than attempt to be a light worker. Like a real warrior doesn't avoid, they get in there and get to know themselves and how they respond in situations that are not easy, how they handle themselves when they're walking the edge. And if you can learn to walk the edge of the abyss, then you'll never be bored. And you'll always have options in front of you. But if you put blinders on and believe that it's only the parameters are here, because if that could open up, there's so much more that can come in. So any limitation, becomes a perceptual trajectory that one may have to backstep and go back from where they made that decision and understand the blueprint and where that concept got brought in. Seeing a lot of that with food, that people think eating meat is eating death, and therefore death is not life. And death is power. Toltecs have a very unique relationship with the earth, and the earth mother tells them to eat the most important, that the relationship with animal and man is for us to take that power and build our power. It may have not been what happened in the beginning. Maybe we were frugivores at one point, but for whatever occurred in our life, it appears that we lived off of animal fat and animal protein for such a long period of time without carbs, and we became really powerful during that time. And when we domesticated, we got brought into all these other ways of being. And I'm not saying everyone should switch to the ancestral diet, or But this idea that, for one, plants do have consciousness, and when you kill a plant, it's a it's an awareness. Um, Fruit would be the only way to not be in that process. So, um, our ability to live as long as possible, I think, is what needs to be the focus, because I think there's been a combination of foods we've been eating that have been keeping us from being able to understand how incredible it does feel to not mix too much. Um, so, darkness, this idea that eating meat is a dark thing, or that drinking is a dark thing, or it's what your intention is when you go to do this act. If you're listening to your body and you're giving yourself an opportunity, to tap into the true desire and passion of your being, um, one of the most liberating things one can do is come out of fear. And if there's fear in what you're eating or drinking, yeah, then you're imbuing the thing you're putting into your body with the very thing you're trying to avoid based on the concept that it's bad or good. So we're moving back into more like no judgment, no projecting onto people, no rules. And then your being will eventually go through all the stages it needs to go through without repressing it, so that you don't have to use alcohol on the last adventure of your life in order to feel things. But if that's where you end up, it can be so romantic and beautiful to tap into the spirits of this realm by opening yourself up with a substance, knowing that you don't have much time. Do many people even get that? To go on a road trip knowing that it's all coming to a close. And was this man, did he really need to do this? Could he have just, what was he given a diagnosis by a doctor? I went into a room full of MDs on X Twitter Spaces, and these people were, defending the PCR test and the CDC stats around everything from AIDS to the cold, the the planned event that happened here around a cold. And, I was able to hold my own and explain to them the way in which the data is skewed and the way in which these things are manipulated. And it was not received, well. It was something that was really disturbing. The, the way in which these people speak to people like me, the depths of arrogance and ignorance that they're operating from. It's so thick, it's so amazing. But that cognitive dissonance is the shield that's keeping their reality in check. I'm not in judgment of it. Those are their shields. And if those shields were to come down, that would be detrimental to them. And so it's not meant to happen until it's meant to happen. Doesn't mean I don't get upset. Doesn't mean I'm not struggling and find it disturbing. It's fascinating, it's disturbing, it's intense, it's amazing, really. These people aren't even getting paid to promote deception. But yeah, you learn a lot about yourself when you're under a lot of energetic focus and attack by being in a room like that, and how people go after you, and it can be hard to sleep and stuff afterwards. There are such things as psychic attacks, and if you think about major players in the world, what they go through, the amount of attention that is on them, what that must be like. What does one do typically in order to handle that? They probably tap into substances in order to not have to take on, because they don't have the tools to do anything else. So I'm not here promoting that we check out with substances at all. I think it has to be, you have to be really honest with yourself about what it is that you're doing and why. And you may not know. Um, but yeah, it was, I could have presented myself to the world a long time ago. I chose to wait, or I actually never planned on it at all. But uh, I have, I had some really intense processes that led to me having to sort of become aware of what it would be like, and I've been really fortunate because I've gone really a slow growth, so that I haven't had to deal with much of anything. But inside of Twitter and X, there's some incredible opportunities to learn about your center when people come after you. And there's a lot of people that believe, that they're outsourcing their power to people on the world stage, as if, these characters playing these roles are here to free us from, some enemy. The reality is there are no enemies outside of you. The enemy is within. The enemy is a foreign installation that is a mind virus that's like a radio channel that's very difficult to turn off. Nothing else is of concern. Everything else is a distraction. Forcing silence is the same as embracing the darkness. And you are a dark, mysterious creature capable of silence, capable of direct knowing, capable of deja vu. Deja vu is just having a dream of the future. And then when you're in that event in which you already dreamt, you feel like, wow, I've been here before. Eventually, this leads to being able to tap into your parallel being and have communication with other parts of you that are experiencing other things that are happening with different layers of time's intensity. So I've been living for 46 years, but I'm still tapping into this part of me that's been in the forest for just a day, but it's equivalent to this 46-year time. But I'm hitting a transition where that part of me is going to exit the forest, and I'm going to go into a different stage of my life, because it's all like lined up and there's some communication occurring. And so our ability to tap into intensity, to become intense, to not need to be any different for other people. Obviously you can balance your intensity so you don't scare people, so you can keep a normal job. You don't need to tell people about the non-linear at your job. You can just be whatever for whoever, and not without losing your power. You can remain a dark, mysterious, powerful being without having to show people that. And I just want people to know how incredible they are, how much pain they're in, and how to get to the pain. Because it's not just your pain, there's other pain. There's stuff that wants to be faced and processed, and wisdom comes painfully and in driblets. And so pain is a part of this journey. And our ability to know our power is within being able to expand our resiliency, which means to be able to truly feel things, allow them to change us and move us so that we grow. You meet people at a high school reunion, they haven't changed. They're running the same energy. They're saying the same things. They never adjusted their intensity. And so it's like you become real and everyone remains in a veneer. It's just you develop this depth, and it's not comfortable for people unless you mask it for them. And that just naturally happens. Otherwise, the world would not react well to you if you didn't know how to mask your power. But you can shine your light in a beautiful way and send love and intention through the words that you're speaking or the hugs you're giving, or it's nothing to be afraid of ultimately. But it's okay to be in fear and to admit to your fears, talk about your fears. Doesn't mean you have to dwell on anything. You can have a focused way of discussing things, a warrior's dialogue. So, although the goal is to turn off the dialogue, there's a transition of learning how to have a healthy dialogue or use the programming in a more efficient way to free yourself from it. Any attempt to quickly get away from this programming is not going to go well. So, I don't recommend, these continuous returns to ayahuasca. That's a takes a lot of integration to come to terms with the nonlinear when it's been given to you on such a direct level. Uh, but each to their own, and I encourage you to follow, not let me interfere with your process. Um, you know, the land in which ayahuasca comes from, the jungle, is power. You don't need ayahuasca. You could just go into the jungle. The jungle in itself would be, if you could stay out at night in the jungle. I mean, that's it's just the jungle is pure power, and so is the darkness and the combination. The desert is straight power too. Like, I mean, everything is. It's just there's different versions of intensity represented by different aspects of the Earth Mother, and every woman in this world is a representation of the different aspects of the Earth. Women are so amazing. They are representations of the Mother. So it's beautiful to be alive and to be meeting so many incredible people. Um, it's been, yeah, really magical for me to come out of privacy and into this expansive time of connecting with so many. And yeah, just wanted to connect today and say thank you. Thank you for being alive and freeing yourself from previous limited perceptions of yourself. We are all perceivers capable of seeing in the dark, using light to draw light into our body. Anytime the sun is out, you can move into an altered state and connect the sun, receive the sun and drink the sun and draw the sun into your being. Because I'm in a place where it just got really cold and it's about to go into a different time. I've spent so much time drawing in the sun, knowing that I'll be going a little bit more inward into the dark. And it's powerful to be inside of these deep shifts. They move and stir things up. See you next time. Thank you.